all disruptors chase the spotlight. Some quietly fix what's broken at the core. Ari Zilka has been the go-to guy for scale and systems, from Walmart.com's early tech to real-time AI for enterprise ops. Now, with My Decisive AI, he's shifting the conversation from hype to action, turning monitoring into decision-making. Ari Zilka isn't just building software, he's rebuilding how business runs. That's what makes him a disruptor.
Hey, I am intrigued by this man, Ari Zilka. What we're going to talk about today is kind of interesting because everyone talks about AI. Everyone talks about the glitz of AI, kind of the business to consumer. Mm-hmm. But there's a whole backbone issue that's going on in AI right now. And you're seeing parts of it just in headlines only. I mean, recently we saw something in the headlines on DeepSeek with Nvidia. And I think that caught people off guard. Because I think as mainstream America starts understanding about AI, and by the way, AI has been around forever, but now that it's becoming more commercial, I think there's this kind of general curiosity of what AI is and how it's going to affect us. So, Ari, welcome.
Thank you.
I've appreciated, I've appreciated kind of getting to know you, but I think for purposes of just getting people to understand who you are, mm-hmm. I already know your history, but I would love to hear a little bit of your history, and then maybe we can evolve the conversation as to My Decisive AI and why you feel that this is not necessarily a product, but it's really solving a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And in order to do that, I need to kind of know some background on who you are. So welcome.
Welcome
to the beautiful Las Vegas, by the way.
Yes, it is.
By the way, you stayed here, right? Correct?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Oh, it's gorgeous. This hotel is clean, fresh, fun. I stay a lot in Vegas. This is definitely
From
a game changer
and
for
things
me.
like that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the facility is beautiful, and ownership here is wonderful. So
mm-hmm.
thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So Ari, start me from not necessarily maybe when you were born, but kind of like how you kind of arrived at this conversation with you, and then how this evolved to it. Because I think for another education point for aspiring entrepreneurs, they always mm-hmm. look at kind of the Uber or the Tesla, and they go, this is where I want to be. But there's a plethora of things to go through, and and maybe even discuss some of the frustrations you had with capital raising and so on and so forth. I think that's all part of the process.
So look, I'm a clutch player, Bruce. Like people used to bring me in to solve really hard problems. There's many different names for that in enterprise, tiger teams, things like that. I met my current investors from My Decisive way back at Walmart.com. We were early employees. I was on the tech side, and my now investor was on the operational side of the business. And he called me in. I was building the technology stack. Walmart.com, you hit it. That used to be my infrastructure. We're talking 20 years ago now. But what really brought us together is he called me in for a clutch play. He was like, Ari, we have some bottlenecks in the business, and we need you to come figure out what they are, tune them up, and get us to a higher scale. And so I did it for him in 2002, 2003, I did it again. That led me to meet with the leadership of the company. You do that enough, you do what you're passionate about. Everyone says, do what you're passionate about, and you'll eventually hit big. For me, it's just the stress situations really, drive me to action. And that led me to My Decisive and led me to my current investors. Not only did we build a business together in the past so they knew what I was capable of, but I've always come in and tuned scale after scale. And so whether it was my first startup after Walmart was a super fast data company worried about milliseconds. So we got used by the French subway system, the Metro. We got used by the U.S. Passport Office. We got used by Sabre Holdings underneath, all the production ticketing systems in the U.S. Because we could do things in milliseconds reliably. The next place I went was big data. Everybody's heard about big data before AI. We really brought big data to the enterprise, and being able to figure out the value of a transaction, the true value of a customer, and doing that across all verticals. Financial services, should I take this call? Should I spend time on this customer? Of course you should. Not only are they got $1 million on deposit with you, but they've transacted this much business with you. Their total value to your company is ranked in the top 10% of all customers. Spend the time, do what they need. Businesses make decisions off of big data. Then I went into monitoring. And monitoring data is massive. We think about petabytes in business data. We think about gigabytes in application data, but we think about exabytes in monitoring data. And what's crazy about monitoring data is it's full of manual toil. There is a tax exacted from every single company on the planet to monitor their systems. And insiders know it as observability. That's what they call this space. They don't call it monitoring. But for you and me, it's monitoring. And they pay millions of dollars a year.
Well, because they got to scrape the data. And they
Yeah.
got to understand who the customer is, where they're coming from, how they're spending, so on
How
and so
fast the server is
Correct.
responding. If you try to stream a show,
forth.
does
That's
that stream
intuitive
work
from
or
my
not?
perspective.
Yeah. I think monitoring is an intuition. Like, you just do it. Everybody agrees. It's like insurance. You just pay it. It's part of doing business. But the value's not there. And that's what My Decisive is about. It's going past monitoring to deciding.
You were with Walmart.com. I'm kind of curious when you went, and I'm not looking for anything disparaging, so to speak, or insightful in that regard, but when you would go to management when they have this old economy structure, and then you're in the new economy structure, how was that interaction? Were they receptive to it, or were they, because at some point you're breaking glass too, and so I kind of want to know that tension.
Yeah. Let me answer that through an anecdote, Bruce.
Okay.
So I was responsible for scale, as I said, right?
I mean,
And-
do you get my point? Technically,
Totally,
that scale is
totally.
disruptive to the old economy
Yeah,
business.
and that's exactly where I'm going. Like, I was asked every year, like, here's our capacity plan, Ari, here's the revenue we need to make. Can you handle the traffic? And I would do a bunch of tests and tuning and say, okay, the system's ready to go. Think about it like a car getting ready to go on the racetrack. I was that lead mechanic who was like, engines showing good telemetry, tire pressure's good, brakes are warm, tire blankets off, let's go. That was me. And one year, about 4 years in, they said, okay, this year we're going to double the business again. It was a great company to be at the time. People were smart. Team was on fire. Business was on fire. We were doing wonderfully. They said, let's double the business. And I said, we got a problem. Like, you can't double the business anymore. And that's where your question is sort of answered. And they're like, why can't we double the business? I'm like, because our conversion rate is really poor. I've been doing competitive analysis, and the born in the internet companies, the big guys, Jeff Bezos and folks, they're converting at like 4 to 7%. You visit the site, almost 10% of people buy. For us, it's less than 1. So, like, I need every man, woman, and child in the United States to come to Walmart.com every single day to get enough traffic to get our low conversion rates. We are not performing like the stores. You walk into the store to get something, but when you hit our site, something's not right. And so we're going to have to tune up the efficiency of the business. And that's sort of what the value in monitoring is supposed to be.
Well, that's kind of what I was trying to draw from. And so the problem was right there.
Yeah.
So you have, we know the people are out there because you have Amazon proving it.
Yeah.
All right. Were they better data collectors, or were they just more from a B2C perspective?
Yeah.
The consumer was more aware that this is what Amazon does. And so therefore being the
Exactly.
first
It
mover
was
in
it
the
was
space.
brand association with
Correct.
the internet. It was slow delivery cycles on our side. It was assortment. We were trying to sell what was in the store online. My friend, who's now my investor, was one of the core people who was like, we've got to transform our own thinking. We cannot just take Walmart and repeat it on the internet. We've got to compete directly and be where the customers want us to be.
People want to start businesses. Okay. One thing I always tell investors entrepreneurs, so on and so forth, you don't always have to have the best juice out there. You don't always have to have the best clothes out there. We even talked about it. Profit margins are low. There's a certain scalability, and then it measures off. I mean, infrastructure is technically endless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
It's funny. People say to me, I used to say I wish I was in consumer, that I could come up with an iPod or dating myself or an iPad or what have you.
Right.
But because you can sell billions of them and it seems endless. And all the consumer product people used to say to me, I wish I was in infrastructure, because enterprises have no end of money to spend, no end of problems, and they are decisive, unlike consumers who are fickle and loyal to a point.
what I'm trying to kind of drive at, all right, because your situation, I have to keep somewhat relatively simple for a very complex problem, all right? So there's a kind of maybe the simple statement is just a massive misunderstanding about what AI is and what it means. But to me, it's the speed in which this stuff is coming at. And so there seems to be a kind of a frozen mentality of where do we go from here? And companies seem to be spending a ton of money, but going nowhere in what we call this ocean of data.
Yeah, here's what's wrong,
help me
Bruce.
through that.
Here's what's wrong is data is bimodal. There's streaming data and there's data at rest. There's certain classes of data you must work with while it's in motion. And there's other classes that you need it to get into a database before you could do stuff with it. So AI is really good, and the generative movement we are talking about today has come to fruition because it's examining tomes and tomes of data at rest. It's not good at real-time data in the stream. And My Decisive is all about data in the stream, and monitoring has been built as a data at rest problem historically. Let's get it all into a database.
Just define data at rest.
Stored on disk, stored on servers.
So,
it's locked in servers, waiting for you to ask a question. Then the server will spin up a disk or fire off some electrons in a chip, and then pull data up into the operating system, and then start calculating things like answering what to do, what now, what next, why did this happen. All those questions are much easier to answer while the data is passing by. Of course, there's always going to be a world in monitoring where you want to say, why did that happen 2 weeks ago? When has it happened before? You need to store it all for the analytical scenarios, for the why answers, but what next needs to be done in real time. And AI can be applied to real time, but first you need to take control of the stream itself. You need to be the river, and that's My Decisive. We are the river through which all your data, your telemetry, your monitoring data flows, and we allow you to not just decide where it goes and how to format it, which would be a simple water analogy, but we also allow you to float boats on that water. Boats like detectors, like tell me if I'm broken, tell me if I have too few servers, tell me if I should fail over to my disaster recovery environment, tell me if my production environment has been recovered and I should fail back, tell me if I should roll back, the users don't like this release, pull it back. Well, you know how that's done today? It's done manually.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it's very inefficient.
You put out a release today. Your team checks a few boxes and says, "I've QA'd the site. It's still or the app. It's still working. Let's go home."
But when that information floats to the top, right? Often, in my opinion, CEOs, there are some who say, tell me how the watch is made. Most of the CEOs hire people to tell me what time is it.
Yeah.
If the person who making the watch can't tell the CEO what time it is,
that's monitoring today.
But that's what I'm trying to say. That's going to show up in genuine revenue.
It does.
And so
that's where back to Walmart.com. That's
correct.
when I figured it out.
Or any company for that matter.
Yeah.
So what's that lag time before the CEO goes, "Hey, wait a minute, we're not getting the pull or the data that we necessarily need." Is this a big problem?
Yeah, it is. And it hasn't been fixed. And AI is not going to fix it by itself.
Because AI is not being directed correctly in the ocean, correct? So you're
Here's a simple
wiring
example.
the AI.
Here's a simple example.
Right.
Somebody owned checkout at Walmart.com and said, let's switch the order of the steps in the flow. And we should make an incremental 10 million because people are abandoning checkout during checkout. We switched all the steps. 6 months later, someone else took over checkout. Let's switch the steps. Let's switch the steps. Owner after owner, the CEO, to your point, picked up her head and said, hey, if I gathered together all the incremental 10 millions you guys claimed were being lost in the checkout inefficiency, we'd be making more than our total revenue. Something's wrong here. You guys aren't reading the data right. You're not asking the right questions, or our data is bad. And so, what people are missing is they get stuck down in nurturing one little tree.
Well, and then at the end of the day, that feels like if you're a KPI, that seems like a tremendous waste of capital.
Yeah.
So
You're
is
paying
that-
for the project to be done and then undone and done and undone.
Right.
And
So
how many companies
it's
are
perverse,
doing it?
but there
Most
isn't.
companies
It's
do
perverse,
this.
but it doesn't sound like there's even an incentive to fix it because that creates that churning process where people get paid constantly.
Well, it's worse than that. Not only are people paid to just keep doing projects in most companies, but monitoring is a paid-for service.
Well, and
Just like you buy an app
Yeah.
on your phone, companies buy monitoring as a service, and that monitoring service charges for the more data you send
okay,
it.
so now I'm getting it. So the opportunity, your vision, what you saw as the opportunity is there's this huge ocean out there where you're saying this monitoring conversation has been kind of untapped. Are there a lot of competitors doing what you're doing? Are they trying to even remotely try to fix
Here's
this?
what
I
people
mean, I can't
are
believe
doing.
you're the only person out there. So I'm
Yeah.
playing Mr. Skeptic for
The
a minute.
closest to us is what I call a filter. So it's basically people saying, I'm going to dam the river. So you have this massive cost prohibitive river of monitoring data flowing to these services, and I'm just going to help you slow it down. That's what our competitors do. Slow down the river, pay less money. Guess what, though?
Yeah,
You
but
lose
that's
intelligence.
But that's
You lose data.
That's a governor. That's not necessarily. That's just making
Yeah,
the water stream
you don't need a
less.
governor. You need a decider.
Right.
You need a framework in which to
AI
say,
is supposed to make that bigger, not smaller.
yeah,
So the filter mentality works great to just have less, cost, but it doesn't still solve the problem. In fact, if anything, the problem gets bigger.
yeah. Well, you fly more blind when you
Correct.
start filtering things.
I don't want to fly blind.
Yeah. And so CEOs are stuck because they're like, I'm stuck in these cycles. People are building and then unbuilding, building and then unbuilding. We don't have the answer to what to do today, what to do this minute. Should we restart the service? Should we fail over? Should we scale up? Should we scale down? And why are we spending the money we're spending? Monitoring inside infrastructure is at the heart of this problem. And many people before me already figured that out. What they haven't figured out is it's a streaming problem, not a storage problem. You don't store it all and then ignore it. You actually ask it to feed into decision engines and make calls like start, stop, scale up, scale down, fail over, roll back. The users hate this release. Humans shouldn't be doing that. AI should be doing that.
So the genesis of My Decisive AI, now I understand the meaning of it, is you're there to make decisions based on this vast data that's coming through.
Yeah.
And helping route the appropriate information.
Yeah.
And the AI component is helping speed that up.
Yeah, it's too much data for humans.
Correct.
Humans look at monitoring data and make
So
1 to 10 decisions a day.
Right.
My Decisive looks at monitoring data and makes 1,000 to 10,000 decisions for a business in a day.
So Ari, now that I've kind of genuinely understood, the My Decisive AI, there's another component to this. 5 years ago, when startups were raising money, it seemed like no one could lose, right? I mean, and we read stories about, the big ones, right? And it was kind of hot to be in venture capital. How's the environment today?
It's the tightest it's been in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Venture capitalists will have open checkbooks for AI companies. If the story is interesting, compelling, the potential for value extraction is there, they'll write a check. If you're traditional, and we're a hybrid company, right? We're going to bring AI to tune things, but we're really struggling because you got to do the bread and butter. You got to do the hard work. You got to do the heavy lifting, get this data platform built, get these people bought into this vision. The whole world has to see things a different way. And VCs see that as friction. They see that as risk. They see that as long pull.
Yeah, but that's their job too, is to be
Yeah.
disruptive by nature. So, to go in there and change things, you have to see things differently.
Well, exactly. The whole point of VC was to give you enough capital to disrupt. Because without VC, self-funded, you can't truly disrupt, right? You basically go get one customer, which pays for two customers, which pays for five customers, and you slowly scale, and 20 years later, your business is irrelevant. Like, we're trying to move at the speed of light as a community, as an ecosystem, especially in enterprise. And you can't do that without massive infusions of capital.
Was it, maybe this is too open-ended, but was it difficult to find the right people for this? And how did you do it? Yeah.
So I'm an insider, right? The last job I had before starting My Decisive was at one of these big monitoring companies that tax their customers.
So they
to
saw the
store
same
their
vision
data.
as you did, and they hopped on board?
Yeah, exactly. So I brought a team with me. We also hired outside. It's hard on two levels. When you come up with a disruption, you can't just find people with the technologies and the knowledge you need on their resume. You have to find people who can just in time learn. And it's also hard because the market is noisy right now. Not only are there a lot of startups scratching at dirt, but there's also a lot of people looking for jobs. And I opened up for 2 hours on LinkedIn last week, a job posting. I got 600 responses.
A
in
far
2
cry
hours.
from 3 years ago,
Yeah.
when it felt like the labor shortage created, and the intelligence shortage created this massive demand, and I feel like that's flipped.
Yeah.
That could be of high benefit though to your company over
Yeah,
over this period of time.
the name of the game now is making decisions. From the individuals you hire, to where you deploy your capital, to the type of marketing you do. We were talking, you and I, offline about how marketing itself has changed. Like, everything you do has to be modern and be real time in its intent. And people who figure that out win.
Yeah.
And people,
I
it
agree.
doesn't matter if you have an AI
1,000% agree.
It doesn't matter
Yeah.
if you have an AI
1,000%.
company or if you have an infrastructure company. If you move in real time, you're going to win.
Well, Ari, I hope you come back, because I do believe that infrastructure is something that's actually not talked about a lot. We read the headlines on AI, and we're all intrigued by the fact that they can write poems and say all these these statements, but it's so much deeper than that, and it's actually kind of a problem, because AI is creating all these fastballs, and there doesn't seem to be a strike zone. So I think what you're doing is establishing that strike zone through some of the companies that you're working with. So best of luck for you on everything.
Thank you,
Hope to
man.
see you soon.
I appreciate the time.
All right.
Yeah.
Changing the game, shattering expectations, rewriting the rules. Meet the new visionaries, the rebels, the ones who dare to disrupt.
When you're on a show like this, we're always talking about disruption.
The Disruptors. From the Fontainebleau Las Vegas Resort.